Hey, how's it going? Gareth James here for MTT Poker School. Today I've got some early game live play footage from the first Sunday of this year's Scoop to run through. I've also got various PIOSolver, simple three-way, simple pre-flop sims should we need them. But let's not waste any more time. Let's dive straight into the action. So top left is the bigger 22, 100k guarantee on a Sunday. Top right is the 215 Sunday Million Special Edition for Scoop. Bottom left is a $22 deep stack on Party. And bottom right is the Mini Sunday Million $22 Special Edition for Scoop as well. So yeah, first spot here, we have King 4 suited in the small blind. And I think we should be calling here. It's a much smaller raise than I'd expect. I mean, there is a 30 big blind stack on the button. But yeah, versus the min raise, we should just be calling here. Yeah, can't remember what I did. Okay, so we choose to fold. So yeah, I think that's a mistake. And that's the beauty of these live reviews, is that you can, spot these mistakes and see, what you can do better next time. You've got a spot here then, top right in the milli. You can see me just filling out some info here in the player notes. So what I like to do is to sharp scope players to see, if they're a winning player, losing player, what's their average stake. If they've had, just a one bink, like, you can see I'm writing in here, Kate came second, this player came second in the Scoop 1K main event for, most of their profit. They're usually a $22 ABI player. So it's not, I think that's, that's very different from a player that's playing high stakes all the time and is up half a mil or a mil or anything like that. You'll also see some players who are up a lot of money, but haven't really won anything since 2013. So it's also good to look at the graph to see how that's looking. It might just be a really nice graph up until 2013 and then just like break even, since then, or maybe even losing. So it's just good to know. Pocket eights here then. Under the gun opens, probably just going to be calling here most of the time. I'm sure you can 3-bet a little bit at the time. But yeah, just going to go for a call. And the flop comes 7-4-4 with a flush draw. Let's see what he does. Okay, so he goes ahead and bets small here. And I think I remember this in game that I chose to raise for value and protection. And I just think that's probably a mistake. I think we should just call. The problem with raising is that as soon as we do that and he continues, his range just gets a lot stronger. Whereas right now, eights are probably pretty good. They do benefit from protection and raising for value. You get value from flush draws and 7x, maybe even, 5s and 6s get a bit sticky on this flop. But he's also going to have all the better pairs. He's also going to have, flush draws with overcards that have just great equity against us. So yeah, by raising, we just strengthen his range. So yeah, I'm not sure that raising necessarily is the best play in this spot. You can see that I do go for a raise. He calls. The turn is the 3 of hearts. And I think at this stage, the SPR is 2. If we bet and get jammed on, it's really a lousy situation. He can be doing that with some hands that we beat, but most of the time it's just going to be over pairs. So yeah, the hands that we beat is going to be like 2 overs with a flush draw, and whether that's clubs or hearts, we're just not doing too well against his range. That includes like 9s plus, can include a hand like ace 4 of diamonds, ace 4 of spades. It's very unlikely that he's going to be, check jamming here with 7s. I think his hand is just so strong that he can just check call. But yeah, I think it's, I think we should have just called the flop. I think we've made the pot way too big for this spot. You can see me just going for a bet now, and he does fold. So let's pull this up in Pio and have a look, see what it says. Okay, so versus his bet, you can see we don't really do too much raising at all. We're raising like 4x in this spot, and obviously we only have a tiny amount of King 4 suited here. But pocket eight's really just going for a call most of the time. So yeah, I just don't think it was good to raise. So I think this is a pretty big takeaway, that we should just be playing passive or passively here. You can see we really don't do much folding, but we want to continue on this board versus an early position bet, through a call rather than a raise. Bottom left here, you can see 10-8 offsuit. We should be calling here. and we fold. So again, another pre-flop mistake that is great that we can pick up from the live play. And you can see me just marking the pocket 8's hand as well. Clearly wasn't 100% sure about what we should be doing there, so good to have run through it. So pocket 9's then top right in the milli. We're going to open to 2.3. So the player's behind, there's a 40 big blind stack in the small blind, and then 69 bigs to our left. We get 3-bet, so just going to call here and play a flop. Okay, king, queen, jack board. I mean, it's a great board for him. He's going to have, really strong hands on this board. Our hand, we have a pair and a gut shot, but it's really, really weak. And yeah, I think a common mistake here. We'll see how big he bets. Okay, so he goes really, really small, 20% pot, which is pretty good for this spot. He just absolutely smashes this board. If he has a really strong hand, he wants to sort of induce action or encourage us to continue. So we have a pair and a gut shot, but the problem is, if we hit a 10, he has a lot of ace-x in his range. What do we do on the 10x? When the 10 hits the turn. So yeah, this is just a fold. It feels really sort of weak to just go ahead and fold at this point, but it's just not a profitable call. And I think it's really important to look at the situation. He can have a lot of strong hands, and when we actually improve our hand, he ends up having the better hand most of the time. So yeah, we just have to fold here and not worry too much about it. So you can see pocket 9 is just pure fold. We have lots of hands to continue. We're folding about 51%. I mean, he has just a huge equity advantage here, 68 to 32. So we should be folding a lot of the time. We really want to have like a pair plus a draw of some kind. And okay, we do have a pair plus a draw, but it's really weak. And yeah, our equity here is just really, really low. Okay, pocket queens then. Probably going to 3-bet here. Now, obviously, the footage is sped up, so if you're thinking that maybe I 3-bet too quickly there, it did take some time. And you can see the time bank going down. 3-bet, and he folds, or she. Who knows? Okay, pocket 5's here versus a min raise. I think we should just call. When we're playing this deep, against the original Razor. If you've ever seen them, the GTO solutions here just do a lot of flatting and not a lot of 3-betting. I think it's a pretty strange strategy if you've seen it, because you're flatting your entire range, you get to flat lots of hands, but you're also flatting like aces and kings and obviously encouraging action behind. So I think it does it because it wants to protect its flatting range, right? So it includes the big hands in there that it can then back raise jam, or back raise, I guess. I think it's fine to flat 5s here. I think in soft fields as well, you can just flat small pairs to set mine versus a small raise. It's only 2 big blinds, and the potential payoff of hitting a set and winning a big pot is just huge. All right, we face a jam for 37 bigs. I mean, I don't think this is a thing, but not much we can do about it. We're just gonna fold. Okay, limping with king 4 off here. We have king high. We have some showdown, so I think checking is probably okay. And we defend 6-5 off in the top right, and we're probably gonna defend here with the 10-9 suited. Okay, let's pause this. So there's so much going on that we just need to look at this. So bottom left, then we still have some showdown value. We can improve to a straight, and yeah, we just win sometimes. So I think it's fine to just go ahead and continue to check. Top right, then we defend with 6-5 off against the player that just jammed for 37 bigs. And we face a 2.5x c-bet on this board. And this is obviously a fantastic board for him and not very good for us. So with the 6-5 off, I think continuing here is probably pretty low EV. Like, I would sooner have 6-5 of diamonds or 6-5 of spades so that there were more turn cards that I can continue on. Now, obviously, if we end up just folding hands like this straight away, we don't really give him an incentive to continue to barrel on the turn, right? So that when we have a value hand or a hand that we can continue on the turn, he's just going to think, okay, well, the big blind's range is a lot stronger, therefore I'm not going to try to barrel him off. So it's important, you know, really to continue with some hands that are not so good, so that you actually have a folding range on the turn. Then you actually get paid when you have a hand that can continue. But yeah, I think it's really low EV here. Let's pull it up in Pio and have a look. So you can see that most of the time it wants to continue with the 6-5 off and doing a little bit of raising as well. But if we look at the EV, you can see that it is pretty low, right? It's really not that great. Whereas if we look at a hand like 6-5 of spades or 6-5 of diamonds, the EV is like seven times as big. So I definitely feel more comfortable continuing with the spades and diamonds and just passing here with 6-5 off. I don't think we need to continue all the time in these situations where the EV is really, really low. His range is a lot stronger than ours. You can see he has like 64% equity. We have 36. So we can just go ahead and fold. And you can see like, 7-6 off, not too different, I guess, is, folding a lot of the time or a lot more frequently. And the EV of 7-6 off is a lot lower. So yeah, I think folding here is absolutely fine. If you feel like your opponent, is going to play too passively on later streets, then I guess you can continue and then, play turns and rivers. Okay, fold versus the squeeze with the 10-9 suited. Bottom left. Yeah, it's an interesting spot. I mean, if we think that he's only going to really call here with 2-pair plus, and, quite a lot of those hands will have bet or raised pre-flop, or they would have bet post-flop as well, then I think betting here is probably fairly reasonable. The thing is that, in a $22, he might just show down, I'm trying to think. I mean, he needs to have a pretty weak hand because even 7-6 is a straight now. So he needs to have like 7-5 and under. So he really just lands on this river with pairs that probably can't call a bet. Like 8x, 9x, 10x, or something, really, really weak that he should be bluffing with on the river. So actually, I don't feel we've probably got that much showdown value. We might even have to check call on the river. So I don't know what I did. Let's see. Okay, I just chose to check. And I'm not really sure. I think it's a case of, having a few other hands, maybe not thinking that hand through as well as possibly could do. I think it's unlikely that we win this. If he does land on the river with like 6-3 of clubs, then he's got to bluff at some frequency. I think it's unlikely we win that often, but let's see. Okay, yeah. So like just almost every hand that he has a piece of this board that we can probably fold. And if he doesn't, then he's going to bluff the river and we can't really call. So I think we should be betting the river there. Okay, going to open 10-9 suited top left. And again, you can see me marking the 6-5 off to run later. Okay, so King Jack 9 then, monotone board, 30 big blinds, cut off versus big blind. I think it's fine to just go ahead and see bet small here. Bottom right, we're going to go ahead and call. I think you can 3-bet. You can jam with 35 bigs here. The Mini Sunday Million is a very soft tournament. And so if the EVs of jamming and calling are fairly similar, then it probably makes sense, or it does make sense, to just call with the Jack 10 suited in this spot, play post flop, rather than potentially you jam and they fold and okay, you pick up a few big blinds, but if you lose in this spot, you're out and it's a freeze out and there's no chance to re-enter. So in those marginal spots, I think in soft fields, I think you can definitely take the more passive route. Okay, so top left then, he called the flop. Turn is the 6 of clubs. I think we just have enough showdown value where we don't want to bet the turn. We still beat, some hands like a flush draw. And we can improve as well. As you can see, we've now improved to a straight. Let's see what happens. He bets fairly big here, 70% pot. Yeah, I think we should just call. Raising doesn't make sense. You know, we're only going to get called by probably a flush, and 2-pair doesn't call. It might be a spot where Pio sometimes raises because it's going to force the big blind to call with worse, but in practice that's just not happening. So yeah, I think we should just call. Sometimes we lose, but sometimes we win, and we win often enough. Okay, so he's betting 9-8 off. I think he can just check and win sometimes. Yeah, so the way that we've played the hand through, I think that there's some chance that he can still win on the river with a 9. You know, we could have some 6x, or we could have, you know, 7s and 8s, maybe that chooses to check back, and then we think that we win often enough by checking back on the river. But I guess it's fairly close. He might just think that he has no showdown value, so has to turn his hand into a bluff. And it's a pretty tough spot for us even with 2-pair. Let's say we had like Queen 9 or a hand like that, then he can definitely have flushes, he can definitely have straights, and yeah, so it's probably not a bad spot to turn his hand into a bluff if he feels like he doesn't have any showdown value. Okay, so bottom right we go multi-way then, Ace Jack 9 board. Playing 32 bigs effective here, and he bets 5.7 bigs. So with the player left to act behind and facing a pretty big bet here, I'm really not sure that Jack 10 suited here, even though we have some backdoor draws, is going to be a continue here. I'd feel a lot more comfortable calling here against a smaller bet, but I think against the bigger bet, yeah, the EV on a call can't be that high. But I have run this in simple 3-way so we can have a look. So we both check, and then this is his strategy on this board. And you can see the darker red is the bigger bet. So he does do some bigger betting here. You can see it down here as well. 42% bigger betting, 24% small bet, and checking about a third of the time. So if we go down this branch, he bets, and we can have a look at our strategy. With the Jack 10 suited, you can see that it wants to call 100% of the time. The EV's not massive, but it's better than folding, right? Because folding 0 and calling is worth 0.7, 0.8. Yeah, so I think we have to call here and play a turn. But I think I folded in game. Okay, so we call with Ace 8 of hearts here. And then the big blind squeezes. It's a pretty small squeeze actually, out of position. Most of the time this kind of squeeze is going to be pretty strong. I think in game I folded, and I think if this guy has a balanced squeezing range, that's a mistake, and we should definitely continue here. It's only 6.6 bigs, but if he's on the value side, on value heavy side, then I think folding's fine. It does look pretty strong here. He's made a small 3-bet, small squeeze. If he was really looking for folds, I think he goes much bigger. Probably, 5x the raise. So like to 10x, 10.5x, rather than 8.7. So it's sort of like we're caught in the middle, right? Because the raise is smaller, so we're more incentivized to continue because we're getting a better price. But because his raise is smaller, we think that his range is actually stronger, and Ace-8 suited is not going to be doing that well. I think it's probably pretty close, but let me know in the comments what you think about that spot, whether we should continue, what you think about my read into bet sizes is like. I'd love to hear your feedback. All right, that's going to wrap things up for the first part. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. My name's Gareth James for MTT Poker School. I'll be back soon with part 2, but until then, take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.